Howdy, welcome back to the shop. Hey, today we're going to get started on a little old project here. I am building a spindexer. This is all scratch built with the exception of my lathe chuck. Pretty slick little project. I was kind of proud of how it turned out with a few exceptions. My backer plate, I'll explain that on the part 2. I'll explain it later. The backer plate kind of was goofy. Didn't really like how that came out, but it is what it is. So anyway, this is the intro. This is going to be a 2-part video. I intended to make a 1-part video under 20 minutes for this whole shooting match, but it didn't work out that way. I got too much to say. So there we go. Let's get started. I think we will start with these bearing blocks right here and get them laid out, so, and milled and all that stuff. So let's get going. So there's the first side of my bearings and caps, all milled about as flat. I've still got a little ding dong right there, but that's about as flat as they need to be. I'm going to break this down, clean it up, knock the burrs off of these, and then flip them over. I don't guess it matters that they're lined up on the ends, but it makes me feel better about things. And this is just 1x4 junkyard aluminum. I don't know what grade it is. Don't care. It's just junkyard aluminum. So I've got my bearing caps in there, and I'm going to lay this out weird because I don't have enough milling machine to drill these, and I don't have enough accuracy on my drill press to lay them out. So I'm going to lay them out with the milling machine with just an 1/8 inch double-ended bit in a collet. I've got these 2 bearing caps clamped up in here, and I found the edges. Found the edge with an edge finder, DRO. Now I'm going to use that for my 0. I'm going to step down a 1/2 inch, step over a 1/2 inch, step over another inch, just touch, 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 touch. And these are pretty dimensionally accurate. They're just these 2 together are just a hair over 2 inches, and this is just a hair under 4 inches, like just a couple of thousandths. So they're fairly dimensionally accurate. I did measure it with my primitive tools. So it is what it is. Follow along, I reckon. So here's my setup to drill the holes. I've got the caps stuck on the bottom, and I've got her lined up. I'm going to drill 4 holes, and I've got my depth stop set that's clearance size for 1/4 and I'm going to drill down 4 times, and that will spot my bearing blocks, my bottom blocks. So here we go. And this is 14% less sketchy than an egg salad sandwich out of a truck stop men's room. So there we go. So here we go. This is the end of the first day that I'm going to work on this thing. I have match marked them. I wasn't quite lined up when I did my through drilling on one of these holes. I guess is this one here. It drifted about a 64th. Oh well, no big deal. My spindle stroke is only 1.75 inches, so I can't gang these together and bore them with my boring head. So what I'm going to have to do is bore these one at a time. So I took the biggest drill bit out of my box, which is 1 3/8 inches, and I ganged them and lined them up in the bottom face and ganged them in the drill press, and that's as good as I can do to align it. So when I put it in the milling machine, what I'll have to do is just pick that up with a coax indicator and get lined up on the center, make sure I've both got them turned the same way, and do the best I can. If they don't perfectly line up, it's not that big of a deal. You know, we're not building a fine Swiss watch here. So we'll catch you. So here's my wild and crazy clamping setup to make my spindle. Now, this here is just 2x2 angle iron, and I went up to the steel yard and I just cut me off some, I guess, 1.25 inch thick slices of it. And you might be able to see I've knocked the back corner off of that so that it's got a relief there. And I make these up 4 or 8 at a time. I use them for just like this for clamping corners. This is almost square. It's not going to be 100%. It's, you know, but it's going to be close enough for something like I'm building. So I just make these. You know, it costs me $1 or $2. And when they get too cobbled up and full of splatter and dingleberries, I just throw them in the trash. Well, actually, no, I use them for something else. But you get the point. This will hold it reasonably square while I get it all tacked together and then subsequently welded. So I'll get this all welded up and we'll be back. So here's my setup in the lathe. This is my weldment, just got done welding it up. Not a whole lot to say about this. You can see this end has got a lot of run out in it. Don't care. This was the end that I really cared about because this will be the end I mount the chuck on. And it's, I don't know, we'll put an indicator on it eventually. It's not that bad. Maybe it's under 1/8 of run out. What I'm trying to show you here is I need to take a hand grinder and grind off and get these flanges quite a bit rounder. So what I've got here, just to my little scribe, and I'm laying this here up on my tool and I'm rolling this through by hand, and that's just scribing me a round circle that's reasonably concentric, and now I can grind off boogers and get it almost round. That'll save me a couple of pieces of carbide. So here we go. I've got this is our big face. We're probably running on about a 3 inch, maybe 3.5 inch diameter here. So there's 0. Almost 40 thousandths out of square with the shaft. For what I'm, you know, doing, that's great. You know, I can turn that much out and or turn that much off of it, still have plenty of meat. That's why I used 1/2 inch plate here instead of 1/4. Good enough for the girls we go with. So here's my general setup so far. Got my little cheesy steady rest set up here, backward and everything else. It is what it is. I'm fixing to go in here and bore this, get the idea of it cleaned up pretty true. And I'm going to make me a little plug to go in there to where I can use the tailstock with a live center. And that'll make it a whole lot easier to turn this journal right here. So I'll get this board, the bore cleaned up in it for about an inch, inch and a quarter. Get it faced off, and then I'll get my my little button in there in the end of it so that I can put the tailstock on here and have something that's somewhat less sketchy. There we go. So there's my setup more or less for me turning this down. Now this took me a good long while because this little lathe does not like turning a 4-inch diameter. So it is what it is. Nice little aluminum plug in the back end of it here to give me a place to center on. Got my journal turned down. I turned that down to 700 thousandths on the nose. Put a little bit of polish on it, not just a terrible high polish, but a little polish. And this is undercut right in here, just a few thousandths. I'll explain that later. But there we go. There's our spindle. So that's going to wrap up part 1 of this video. Thanks for following along. We hope you enjoyed it. Now there will be, probably popping up right now, the playlist for this. I'm going to put all these videos in one playlist, that way they're easier to find. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If I messed something up, please let me know in the comments.
And y'all drive safe, watch for deer.
Yep, y'all drive safe, watch for deer. Very good.